that from Clacton. Just about. All that windy out here. So hard to see the screen.
Everything had to go out to the radio ship. The radio ship could never come ashore, otherwise they'd be in big, big trouble. So every person, every letter, every record, food or fuel had to be ferried out to the Ross Revenge. Throughout the 80s, as I mentioned, the station has been outlawed. In 1967 she was outlawed, but she was fine. And in theory, the only European country that hadn't signed an agreement to outlaw the offshore radio stations was Spain. So back in the 80s, small boats carrying supplies and visitors used to go out to the Ross Revenge from the Spanish port of Sea, the Spanish port of West Mersey, and the Spanish port of Southend-on-Sea. The journey would take about 3 hours. For an hour of it, on a day like today, you could see the huge 300-foot-high mast on the Ross Revenge. Sadly, that went overboard just a few weeks after the hurricane in 1987. But it was Caroline, so another one was built. And over the years, that's been replaced. As you see, and I'm sure the people up on the bow now can see Ross Revenge ahead, there is an aerial mast there. That's a mere 75 feet high, and it's just a token mast. But the original 300 foot high was the tallest structure ever put on a ship at sea, and it was an amazing thing to see. That's out in photographs. The Ross Revenge, of course, had a big history of its own before it was ever owned by Caroline. It was built in Bremerhaven in Germany, one of 4 to design of the best ever, many would say, trawler, side trawler. We go out on both sides of the ship. It was built for the Icelandic fishing fleet,
About like it out.
which was built in 1960. The problem was she was too big to handle from Reykjavik Harbour, and just 3 years later she was up for sale. The Ross Fisheries Group from Grimsby border and changed the name to Ross Revenge. And as Ross Revenge, she fished out of Grimsby from 1963 till 1978, when after the Cod Wars, Britain gave up any right to deep water, distant fishing waters, and the ship was redundant. Most of her sister ships were scrapped. It's only by luck that Ross Revenge, many would say the finest example of the lot, survived. She was bought by a guy called Captain Silas Victor Oates. It was his real name, and sadly he no longer is around, but his son is, and he used it together with his son as a reclamation ship based in Plymouth for some time, until they were asked to go and help with the destruction, that's not the right word, the scrapping of the Ark Royal HMS Eagle, 2 of the British ships and the biggest ships of the Royal Navy. And that was taking place in Cairn Ryan. And that's where she worked and was just left abandoned. Now there's still dispute all these years later as to whether Captain Oates had given up with her. Certainly Martin Banks thought he had, because it was from market fact that Radio Caroline were able to get hold of her. Over the years, she served as a wonderful radio ship. But in recent years, after the death of Ronan O'Reilly, the man that started Caroline, moves had to be made to find out who owned her. Nobody was about to volunteer that information or own up to it. So with a number of very serious admiral court meetings and sittings, it was decreed that Radio Caroline on this ship, not as revenge, was owned by the people that have been looking after her for the last 20 years or so, and fell into the hands of Peter Moore, the manager of Radio Caroline, and is now owned by a charitable trust, and that trust is setting out to get the ship into dry dock to get it restored to as near new condition as possible. It's going to cost many thousands, perhaps millions of pounds, but up till date, the Caroline fans have supported £300,000 has been raised. And the way it works is that if you can show the likes of the National Lottery that you need business, if they are happy with the state of the ship or the challenge of the ship or the history of the ship, they'll simply ignore from the end of the tickets you've got.
See anything
These you ignore. So if anybody recently won the lottery, we'll have your donation as well, please. And you can donate towards Caroline. But wheels are in motion to go to the National Lottery and ask for a considerable amount of money. You can't just turn up and ask for that. So I'm sure the team behind the Waverley will know. You have to tell them exactly how many litres of paint you need, how many brass screws, how many Brillo pads, how many feet of timber, whatever. So those figures are being worked out at the moment, and that involves marine experts as well. Having put that plate in that requested to the National Lottery. But as far as British social history is concerned, in many people's eyes there can be no doubt that she's worthy of a huge donation. Not only did she feed many of the country, many of the population of the country when she was fishing in the early 60s into the 70s, and still holds world records for catching more fish than any other trawler of her size and design. She would be environmentally unfriendly nowadays as a fishing vessel, but she also entertained millions as Radio Caroline, and still with the thousands of people that listen to Caroline, not perhaps millions as Caroline had in the 60s, but with the thousands that tune in daily, she's still entertained. We consider her very worthy donation. If you want details of how you can donate, go to the Ross Revenge charity website, available via the Radio Caroline website, or, as I mentioned, I have books on sale in the tea room just off the personal office, and we've got information as well as to how you can donate to the Ross Revenge. I'm Peter Moore, and our long-serving engineer, John Day. I think they've got a bit of a noisy reception back.
Oh, I gotta film this for YouTube now because go around the ship. I'll post the YouTube video.